My childhood friend Liam said I talked too dirty. You don't sound like a girl at all, he complained. Go learn how to speak nicely like gentle Giselle, our school queen bee. So I went to Giselle, the most elegant, untouchable beauty in school. She stared at my lips thoughtfully. I heard you talk so much, she said, that you could make a mute person speak. Then she made me an offer. Bother my autistic younger brother. For every sentence he says to you, I'll give you $1,000. Poor Giselle. She had no idea what she was getting into. A cultivator of evil arts has her own methods. I walked to the back of the classroom. The quiet boy sat alone in the corner, head down, drowning in his own world of silence. I knocked gently on his desk. Aren't you going to explain it to everyone? I announced loudly. Last night, while I was asleep, you licked my foot. His head snapped up. Those dark, frozen eyes widened. For the first time, his icy face cracked. I did not. 3 words. I turned to Giselle with a brilliant smile. Pay up. The classroom fell into a deathly silence. The gloomy boy Shane slowly processed what I'd said. His pale face flushed. Giselle walked over. Her hands were trembling, not from disgust, but from pure, unhinged hope. She grabbed my arm like I was a lifeline. Master Riley, please save my brother, she explained. Their parents had taken Shane to every psychologist in the country. The answer was always the same. Find someone his age. Let him feel what normal youth feels like. But Shane hated everyone except family, and no teenager wanted to babysit a rich, moody, silent weirdo. You pester him, Giselle said, eyes shining. One sentence from him, I add another 1,000. She squeezed my hand. I squeezed back, staring at the transfer notification on my phone. $1,000 just appeared. Pestering people? I grinned. I'm an expert. In elementary school, my teacher was so desperate to shut me up that she sat me next to a hearing-impaired kid. I learned sign language in 2 weeks. We chatted under the desk like we were performing Naruto hand signs, fingers flying, wrists cramping. The teacher called my mom and said, "Your daughter could talk to a dog on the street all day. Maybe take her to a doctor." So yeah, this job was tailor-made for me. Plus, Shane was ridiculously handsome. Just then, Liam, who had been completely ignored, came over. He stared at me, then at the money on my phone, and without a word, reached out and tried to grab my phone. Riley, he said, his voice tight, our main focus should be on studying. Stop hanging out with shady people. Who are you calling shady? The voice came from behind him. Giselle had turned around, her expression cool and calm again. Her eyes were icy. Liam froze. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. I yanked my arm away from him. I never realized before I said that you're such a coward. You only bully people who won't fight back. Liam tried to say something else, but the bell rang. Class was starting. I skipped back to my seat. That same day over break time, Giselle used her superpower money to rearrange the seating chart. Teacher, she said sweetly, my brother needs friends. Riley is perfect. Also, it's hot. I think the school needs some air conditioners. The teacher shut up and agreed. I moved next to Shane. He pretended to sleep. His neck was right there. I stared at it for an entire class period. Second period ended. I leaned close to his ear and whispered, Shane, do you know your neck is so white? I want to touch it. Leave a bite on it. He jolted upright like I'd electrocuted him. His eyes were wide, horrified, almost cute. I snapped a photo and sent it to Giselle. This is not an autistic child, I texted. This is a very interesting young man. Look at that expression. More vivid than mine. But the next few classes proved I was wrong. Shane was a wall. A beautiful, silent, infuriating wall. I talked about the weather. I talked about food. I talked about conspiracy theories. Nothing. He didn't even blink until the final bell. My throat was dry, but I wasn't frustrated. I was fascinated. No one had ever listened to me say so much without calling me an idiot. Even without the money, I'd found a soulmate. He closed his textbook. Those pale fingers moved slowly. I laughed. That was English class. You weren't even listening. Why are you pretending? His fingers paused. He glanced at me, just a flicker, then stood up and walked toward the door. I grabbed my bag and chased after him. After school that day, Giselle told me their family driver would take me home. I was thrilled. No long walk. But as I was about to leave, someone grabbed my backpack from behind. Hard. I was yanked back so fast my eyes rolled. I spun around. Liam, standing there with a dark, ugly expression. He had followed me. He doesn't even want to talk to you, can't you see that? He said through gritted teeth. Riley, you're a girl. Can't you have some shame? Second time. That was the second time today he had humiliated me. First this morning, calling me dirty and telling me to learn from Giselle. Now this. Even though I had liked him for so long, even though a part of me still remembered the boy who used to laugh at my jokes, I couldn't take it anymore. I lifted my backpack and slammed it into his face. He staggered back, stunned. My chest was heaving. What is wrong with you? I yelled. When I chased after you, you called me shameless. Now that I'm leaving you alone and talking to someone else, you still call me shameless? This morning, you said I don't sound like a girl, and I should learn how to talk properly, gently. Now, this. I laughed bitterly. I hadn't planned to bring this up, but the words poured out. You were the one who told me dirty jokes every day on our walk home. You laughed so hard you almost fell over. I thought that was what you liked. So I stayed up all night, every night, studying dirty talk, memorizing every joke I could find, just so you would keep laughing at me, just so you would keep looking at me. My voice cracked, and now I'm the school's biggest shameless flirt, the girl who talks too dirty. All because I wanted you to like me. You're impossible to please. Go die somewhere else. I threw his arm off me, turned, and saw Shane disappearing into the distance. I ran after him. Shane, why won't you wait for me? He didn't answer. He kept walking toward the black car waiting outside. I spotted a convenience store. Stand there, I ordered. Don't move. And miracle of miracles, he actually stopped. I bought 2 popsicles, ran back, handed him one. It fell. I picked it up, handed it again. It fell again. I was about to lose my mind when I remembered my secret weapon. If you don't take this, I said sweetly, I'll tell your sister you secretly kissed me while I was sleeping. He grabbed the popsicle. We walked side by side. He held it without eating. I leaned in. Don't be shy. I won't tell anyone your nipple is pink. He bit into the popsicle and speed walked away. His ears were burning red. I caught up icily. You know, popsicles can cool you down on a hot day. Like, you stick it into a cow's anus. He stopped chewing, lowered the popsicle. His lips were red from the cold. He stared at me with the expression of someone who had never met a creature like me. A pause. Then his lips moved. Pig. The second phrase he spoke today. Right. Pig's anus. My bad. I corrected myself. I was ecstatic. Shane, you watch those lowbrow videos too? We have so much in common. I finally found my soulmate. He turned and walked faster. I chased him all the way to his car. The family car dropped me off at my apartment building. I was still smiling about the popsicle. I turned toward the stairs and almost had a heart attack. Liam was standing on the landing, arms crossed, face dark. Your mom knows you're hanging out with a sick boy? He sneered. I ignored him and pulled out the extra popsicle I'd bought. I held it out to him. His expression softened slightly. He reached for it, then he opened his mouth again. Shane obviously has mental problems. You think anyone else would put up with your noise like I do? I've been listening to you since we were kids. My ears are still ringing. I crushed the popsicle in my hand. The melted juice dripped down. Then I threw it in his face. He yelped and stumbled back. The stairwell lights flickered on. His face was dripping with sticky, sweet juice. "You're crazy!" I wiped my hand with a tissue and walked past him. "You're the one who keeps talking about other people being sick. Look in the mirror." I climbed the stairs. He didn't follow. The next day, during break, I tried to add Shane on WeChat. He actually spoke. No. I took out my phone to take a picture of him. He frowned and waved me off. I reached for the phone in his pocket. He recoiled like I was trying to grab something else entirely. His face was horrified. While we were messing around, Liam came over and knocked on my desk. "Riley, I'm not going to argue about last night. My mom made sweet and sour ribs. Let's walk home together after school." I stopped tormenting Shane and glanced at Liam sideways. Is he sick? Didn't he hear what I said yesterday? I ignored him. When I turned back, Shane had already stood up and walked out the classroom door. I sighed and chased after him. Shane was standing right outside the door, frozen like a statue. I think he wanted to hide from me, but didn't know where to go. His brain had overheated. I found it hilarious. I poked him. "Hey, seriously?" He didn't speak. He just stood there, stiff as a board, until the bell rang. "Hey, the teacher's coming." I tugged his sleeve. He didn't move. The music teacher appeared, frowning. "What are you two doing out here?" I looked at Shane. He was completely wooden, then at the teacher. "Teacher, Shane has a stomachache." Shane's pupils trembled. He was shocked at my casual lie. The teacher waved us off and told me to take him to the nurse. I was terrible at singing. So escaping music class was entirely thanks to Shane's reputation as a good boy. He walked stiffly, and I dragged him along. As we passed the window, I saw Liam inside, his expression dark. "Shane, have you ever skipped class before?" I asked. I pried his hand open. His palm was warm. My heart did a little flip. Shamelessly, I slipped my own hand into his. He didn't pull away. I led him through the alleyways near the school gate until we reached my favorite noodle shop. The owner smiled. "Bringing a friend? Isn't this class time?" I beamed. "Yep, we're cutting class." Shane's breath stopped. His hand flew up and covered my mouth, his eyes wide with terror. I laughed so hard I almost cried. This little thing was adorable. We sat down. I ordered one bowl of noodles. "You half, me half. Together forever." Shane frowned at the bowl. He pulled out his phone and typed, "I have money." "I can buy two," I replied. "I can't finish a whole bowl." I already had breakfast. I snatched his phone and added myself on WeChat. He didn't stop me. He ate quietly, elegantly, like a prince. When we finished, I wiped my mouth, grabbed his hand, and ran. "We're also skipping the bill." He panicked. His eyes went wide. His heart pounded. I could feel it through his palm. He pulled me back toward the shop, determined. I laughed. "Fine, but you have to say it. Go tell the owner. Sorry, we came back to pay." He stood at the doorway for 5 minutes, frozen. Then he walked in, his voice barely a whisper, stammering, "Sorry, we came to pay." The owner looked confused. "What?" I doubled over laughing. I had the owner's contact on WeChat. I'd already paid, but Shane didn't know that. He was so upset. He turned and walked away. I chased after him. "I'm sorry. I just wanted you to talk more. Your voice is so beautiful." He stopped, turned, looked at me for 2 long seconds. Then, "Shameless." I burst out laughing. He'd meant it as an insult, but it came out so elegantly. "Shane, you sound so pretty when you insult me." He ignored me and walked faster, but his ears were red. That night, Giselle transferred me $10,000. "Shane spoke at home," she messaged. He asked, "Why did Dad's shoes stink so much?" "Master Riley, you are our family's lucky star. Dad's shoes stink? He's too cute." I laughed so hard I fell off my bed. I messaged Shane. To my surprise, he replied to every single message, just 1 or 2 words. But he replied. He even stole my emojis until I sent him dirty ones. Then my phone rang. Liam. I hung up. He called again. I blocked his number. Then he started calling from his mom's phone. Liam and I lived across the hall. His mom was kind to me and close with my mother. No matter how reluctant I was, I couldn't block an adult. I sighed, rubbed my head, and tossed my phone aside. What is wrong with this guy? I thought. All these years I chased after him. He never called me once. It was always the one bothering him. I scrolled through my chat history with Liam. It was almost entirely one-sided, hundreds of my messages. And his rare replies, oh, maybe 1 or 2 words after hundreds of mine. Then I switched back to Shane's chat. He had expected him to be as cold as in person. But no. Every message I sent, he replied. Just 1 or 2 words, but he replied, maybe autistic kids just hate talking in person. Online, they're warm. The next morning, I smiled at Shane. Good morning. The cold boy didn't speak, just glanced up at me. I thought it was strange. He seemed quieter than usual. Then I saw the breakfast on my desk, steaming soup dumplings from that famous shop across town. You brought this? I asked, surprised. He nodded, then shook his head. My sister. I didn't care. I ate happily, soup running down my chin. Shane handed me a napkin. Then Liam appeared again. He looked annoyed. How long are you going to ignore me? He demanded. You really think a rich guy like him could actually like you? I stopped chewing. Shane's hand froze, mid-napkin offer. I slammed the table. Liam, your mind is disgusting. We're students. Instead of helping our classmate, you're trying to start drama? Do you have a guilty conscience? Are you the one with impure thoughts? He sputtered. Riley, I'm saying this as your friend. Or are you the one dating and that's why you think about this stuff all the time? Before he could finish, the homeroom teacher appeared behind him like a vengeful ghost. Liam, my office. Now. I almost died laughing. But when I turned back, Shane was staring at me. His dark eyes were deep, unreadable. Then he looked away. Oh no, I sighed. Little Prince is angry again. I tugged his sleeve. I need your help. Let me copy your homework. Silence. Share that abstract video you sent me yesterday? I can't find it. Silence. 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed. A transfer from Shane. Note attached. Continue helping me. I have money. Don't talk to him. I hate him. My heart did a little flip. A straight shot. Possessive. Wallet. All-time open puppy. Who wouldn't fall for that? Summer vacation was approaching. I was planning a trip abroad with my best friend, a somewhere beachy, expensive, paid for by my newfound pestering income. Shane noticed my phone screen. You're going? He asked quietly. Yeah. Wanna come? He didn't answer. I didn't expect him to. But then the front desk girl turned around and started excitedly telling me about her trip to the same country last year. I chatted with her for 2 minutes. When I looked back, Shane had his head down on the desk. He's angry again, I muttered. At the final bell, I packed my bag slowly. Shane was already at the classroom door, waiting. The sunset painted his profile gold. He was so beautiful that it made me angry. Then Liam appeared in front of me. Your mom called, he said, tossing a key onto my desk. You're staying at my place for a week. Your parents are out of town. I looked up. Shane was gone. I ran to the door. Empty hallway. Great, I muttered. Now the little prince's run off. I walked home alone. The sun was setting. My feet hurt. I'd gotten used to riding in Shane's car. Halfway there, I heard footsteps behind me. I spun around. Shane, frozen mid-step. His expression was somewhere between caught in the act and his brain overheating. Shane, were you following me? He walked up to my side. Said nothing. Where is your car? Sent my sister home. Then why aren't you going home? Silence. But his ears were red. I grinned. Are you reluctant to part with me? He stumbled. Almost fell. I caught his sleeve. At my apartment building, he suddenly spoke. Stay at my house. I blinked. What? Stay at my house, he repeated. Then softer. Not his. Oh, he'd heard Liam. He knew about the week-long stay. I laughed. I'm not staying at Liam's house. I'll just order takeout. Shane's shoulders relaxed. I kicked a pebble. Hey Shane, do you like me? His hair fell over his face. He ducked his head so fast I couldn't see his expression. I waved goodbye, laughing. Get home safe, rich boy. But when I turned around, my parents were standing at the door, suitcases in hand. Grandma's sick, my mom said. We're leaving tonight. I've already called the school. I messaged Shane from the car, red exclamation marks. No signal in the countryside. 3 days passed, no replies. I stared at my phone like a fool. On the third night, a pebble hit my window. I looked down, moonlight, a tall, pale boy standing in the grass, mosquitoes swarming around him. He swatted at his arm with stiff, robotic movements. I ran downstairs in my pajamas. How did you find me? Asked your friend, he said. Why? He looked at me with those dark, serious eyes. Couldn't reach you. I messaged you, lost my phone. I wanted to laugh. The rich boy walked through a bad neighborhood at night and got pickpocketed. Of course, you asked me, he continued, voice low. That night, if I was reluctant to part with you, I didn't answer. You were angry. I wasn't. You stopped messaging. He stepped closer. The moonlight made his skin look like porcelain. I wasn't angry, I said softly. I was, he admitted. His voice cracked. I missed you. My heart stopped. So I came, he finished simply. Are you reluctant to part with me? He was asking back. He wanted an answer. I threw my arms around him. He staggered 2 steps back. Then his arms came up slowly, hesitantly, and wrapped around me. Yes, you idiot, I whispered into his chest. I'm very reluctant. His heart was pounding so loud I could hear it. Shane, I said, pulling back just enough to look at his face. Are you saying you like me? His entire face turned red. From his neck to his ears, to the tips of his ears. Yes, he said. I almost died of cuteness. Can I touch you? I asked, already reaching for his stomach. He sighed. You already are. Oh, those were abs. This quiet, broken boy had abs. How did you even get here? I asked. He pointed to the village entrance. The family driver was standing by the car, covered in mosquito bites, swatting furiously at the air. You should go back, I said. I'll return tomorrow, he nodded. Tomorrow. Then he turned to leave. Shane, he looked back. Tomorrow, I repeated, smiling. His lips twitched. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. I went home the next day. The first person I saw wasn't Shane. It was Liam, standing at my front door. Where have you been? He demanded. My mom appeared behind me. Oh, Liam. Grandma was sick. We went to the countryside. Riley won't be going back to school before vacation. Can you bring her homework? Liam smiled politely at my mom. The fake smile. The one he used on adults. I rolled my eyes and went inside. My phone buzzed. Shane, I'm outside. Mom, I'm taking out the trash. I grabbed an empty bag and ran downstairs. Shane was crouched by the garbage bins like an abandoned puppy. Dark hair, dark eyes, looking up at me. I threw myself at him. He caught me this time, no stumbling. You're so pretty, I said into his shoulder. How is anyone this pretty? He didn't answer, but his hand came up and patted my head. Once, awkwardly. We stood there for a while. I talked. He listened. He nodded. He didn't say much, but he stayed. When it was time to go, I stood on my tiptoes and kissed his cheek. His entire body turned pink. Bye, puppy, I said, patting his butt. I turned toward the stairwell and almost had a heart attack. Liam was standing on the landing. Behind him, my parents. His face was dark. His voice was low, meant only for me. Your love is so cheap, Riley. You can give it to anyone that fast. I stared at him coldly. Better than hanging myself on a dead tree. He turned to my mom. Auntie? That boy? He's the one seducing her into an early relationship. My mom raised an eyebrow. Early? Riley is already 18. Is he underage? I smiled sweetly. He's 2 months older than me. My mom nodded approvingly. Liam's face crumpled. Auntie, what's the problem, Liam? He's sick. Liam's composure cracked. He has a mental illness. He's autistic. You want your daughter dating someone like that? Silence. Shayna's face went white. I saw red. I stepped forward and slapped Liam across the face. Hard. The sound echoed in the stairwell. I've wanted to do that, I said, since the first time you called me shameless. And the first time you called him sick. The only sick person here is you. Now get out. Liam touched his reddened cheek. No one spoke for him. He turned and walked into his apartment, slamming the door. I turned to Shane. He was pale, trembling. But he stepped forward, one step, and bowed deeply to my parents. Uncle, Auntie. His voice shook. He stammered. My illness is almost better. It doesn't hurt anyone. I like Riley very much. I will get better. I will be good to her. Please. My eyes stung. My mom sighed. Come inside for tea, young man. Later that night, my mom sat me down in the living room. Riley, she said carefully, I'm not saying no, but a relationship with someone who has challenges, it won't be easy. You'll have to work harder than other couples. I nodded. I know, Mom, but when I met him, he could barely speak. Today, he said all of that to you. He's trying, and I love him. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. That night, my phone buzzed. A message from Shane. My parents want to meet you. Dinner tomorrow at 7. I'll send a car. I smiled at the screen. He was trying. In his own quiet way, he was trying. The next evening, Shane arrived with a car full of flowers. Not roses, sunflowers. He'd remembered I said I liked them once. When we pulled up to his house, I almost choked. His parents were standing in the driveway, along with their entire staff, all wearing bright red outfits, like a wedding. Giselle stood in the middle, arms wide open, pointing at the massive banner. Welcome to our humble home, Riley, savior of the Shane family. Humble home? I whispered, staring at the 3-story mansion. Shane's mother grabbed my arms. Tears streamed down her face. Riley, please never leave our Shane. Do you know how many psychologists we hired? How many companions we found? None of them lasted a week. Only you. So tenacious, so resilient, so interesting. She paused, searching for the right word in English. Shameless? I offered. You were going to say shameless, weren't you? She laughed and pulled me inside. Dinner was loud. Shane's father kept toasting me. Giselle kept transferring me money under the table. And Shane he sat beside me, quiet as always, but his hand found mine under the tablecloth. He held on. He didn't let go. A few weeks later, Liam moved away. I was taking out the trash when I ran into him on the stairwell. Boxes everywhere. He looked thinner, tired. He stared at me for a long moment. Riley, he said. I stopped. If I had... His voice cracked. If I had just been honest with my feelings, if I hadn't said those hurtful words, would you have kept liking me? I smiled, not cruelly, just honestly. I thought, no, because you were never really the person I liked. You were just the person I was used to. I walked downstairs. My phone buzzed. Shane, you talked to him. I laughed. How do you know? You promised not to. I didn't say anything. You shook your head. I stared at the screen. How did you know that? A long pause. Then, I was watching from the car. I turned around. His black car was parked across the street. Through the window, I could see him, pale hand holding the phone to his ear, dark eyes looking right at me. Shane, I said into the phone, walking toward him, when did you first start liking me? Silence. Then, softly, the first time I looked up. You were standing in the sunlight. And for some reason, I wanted to open my mouth and speak. I got into the car. He hung up the phone. We sat there in the quiet. Then he leaned over slowly, carefully, and kissed my forehead. "Shameless," I whispered. His lips twitched. Learned from the best. The end. Subscribe for more drama. Up next, System Mission. Seduce my husband.